We have got a lot to talk about with Richard Hart, HEX, PulseChain, and the whole crypto ecosystem. I mean, it's all taken a beating. Recently even Ethereum is at 3,400, down about 20%. PulseChain is down 30%, 32% or so in the last couple of days here. But we've already bounced back from the lows. You can see that wick right here on the chart. Let me make this a little bigger. Look at that big wick, and it looks like the market is eating this dip up even quicker than it did with the SEC FUD. But guys, what we're going through right now in PulseChain, okay, this is like the ultimate FUD. It's dark times, and I can't just pretend that it's great, okay? I can't pretend that I like this. This is awful. It's infuriating. Not only for Richard Hart being what I believe is falsely accused of all kinds of ridiculous charges, and I also believe that the SEC is worried that their case is going to get dismissed, right? The judge is seeming like she might actually dismiss the whole case. This might be a Hail Mary effort of the SEC to contact their friends at Interpol and get the corrupt Finnish government on board to try to go after this guy too. Look, if you haven't been paying attention to the news, let me show you guys. This is actually recycled FUD. This is FUD that came up a month ago, and actually even a year ago. In 2023, the Finnish authorities were supposed to be looking for this guy, Richard Hart, right? The founder of these coins, which, by the way, he has nothing to do with them anymore if he got hit by a bus. People don't understand. He's not the CEO. There's no company here, right? So these things that he founded are smart contracts, decentralized code. That's all blockchains are. And so they're going after this guy for rocking the boat, for shaking the status quo, for maybe raising some money and they want their cut because they feel like they want to tax him or he didn't pay taxes on the sacrifice money. I don't know. But clearly, people have it out for this guy. And the kinds of enemies that he's made are governments, government level stuff. Okay? It's not just like, oh, I'm offending some people on the internet with my Gucci bag. It's like the SEC is going after this guy, and it's reasonable that people that don't know better, they get scared because they don't realize that, nobody can actually stop you from buying this stuff. No one can stop us from using our free speech to talk about it. But God, well, with the amount of FUD that we've eaten over the past few months, right? All these influencers out here, everybody talking about it, thousands of people on Twitter, hundreds of people on YouTube, even the haters, right? Even the haters, which are just adding to the mind share, really, because they're just talking about us, keeping it relevant. And it is sad to see some of the haters that claim to be crypto, cypherpunk, Bitcoin guys. All of a sudden now they're sucking middleman D and they're begging for BlackRock to pump their bags. They're begging to sell out. And they're so happy to dance on Richard's grave when he's going through a hard time, right? When he's getting falsely accused. But look, the Finnish government, why did this FUD that was a month old, why is it resurfacing now? I kind of believe it has to do with this website here, which looks really bad. I get it. And this is what's infuriating is for even my own reputation, right? Nobody wants to be associated with somebody that is on this EU most wanted list, most wanted fugitives. But the audacity that they have to put this Richard Hart guy, the founder of software, okay? This guy wrote software, decentralized, open source software, blockchain technology. He put it out on the internet. Again, he can get hit by a bus and the code would still work fine. He's not the CEO. There is no CEO. There's no company. I don't work for HEX. I've never been paid to promote it. Richard Hart's never paid anybody to talk about this or anything like that. But other people are mad that this coin has gained such a cult following, that it's getting so popular. And so when you threaten the authorities and the SEC, and maybe the SEC feels like they're about to lose, maybe they throw a Hail Mary to their buddies at Interpol. But Interpol's been after him for a while. So again, this news is not new. But then you put him on a website like this, it's like help find those who took lives. You're like, oh, this guy a murderer? No, he's not. He's wanted for potentially avoiding tax and being accused of assaulting a 16-year-old victim, which honestly, guys, sounds like a lie. And we could prove that this is actually most likely a lie or a false accusation by simply looking at the date that these claims were made. They claim all this stuff happened on February 17, 2023. And then you go look at February 23rd, 5-6 days later. These baby soft hands when Richard was live streaming a few days after the alleged assault. I think it was February 19th, they accused him of assaulting a 16-year-old. Like, nobody that's ever listened to Richard actually believes this stuff, right? And we're going to get to that. You don't have to believe the story. You could choose to believe he's a scammer. That's fine. I'm not really talking to those people. I'm talking to the people like me that when something like this happens, you just want to double down 10 times harder. You got to think to yourself, part of me, and just how my brain works, I guess, is like, okay, well, why do they want to stop him so bad? Why would they throw the book at him with lawfare and just make up this 16-year-old? I mean, this could be any poor, desperate 16-year-old out on the street People could just beg him to make up a story and he would say anything because people will say anything they can to get money and fame and take other people down. But look, do these look like the hands of somebody that just punched an innocent 16-year-old 4 to 5 times to the point where there is blood and broken skin and swelling? It just all sounds a little bit suspicious, especially when you take into account that the Richard Hart potential dismissal could be happening any day now in regards to the SEC versus Richard Hart case. So the SEC has been having a hard time finding any evidence against him because it doesn't exist. Because what they're looking for is they're suspecting that there is some underground network of some secret cabal of people, when really it's just people like me just talking on the internet. But it's infuriating to see because basically normal people, they just see something like this and they just take it at face value, or they hear the word SEC. They don't realize that the SEC is a civil agency. They don't throw people in jail. They just hear SEC, oh, Richard Hart must be a scammer. He's going to jail. Oh, look at him in a Gucci suit, twerking around for attention on the internet. That's about as far as most people look, let's be honest. But if you are actually wanting the real story, okay, the real saga of what's happening, that's what I'm talking about right now. This man is in trouble, not for stealing anyone's money, because if you look online at all the people that entered the sacrifice funds, okay, and you could point to the price chart and see this dip right here. This was the month-old Interpol FUD that somehow resurfaced a couple days ago. Now we're down 32%. This one back here down 62%. That was the SEC FUD when the SEC lawsuit dropped back in July or August 2023. All the people that bought these coins, that have been buying these coins, a lot of them are still quite happy, actually. They found a way to make money on PulseChain, or even if they bought the dip, they might actually be up now on their money. So you don't find any people that are actually in the community that are actually excited about these projects. They're not the ones yelling scam. It's always somebody from the outside that just wants Richard Hart to be a scammer or wants this whole thing to fail. Maybe secretly they're jealous, right? Maybe they even have a bag because what if they're wrong? It could be just haters online. It could be your own friends secretly talking about you behind your back, hoping that you fail because, every time we try to do something important here, and this is something of actual scale. Okay, the fact that Pulse could 100x or even 1000x, it scares people that don't want to believe. It scares people that don't believe in anything because they're nihilistic, they're doomerism. It's not cool to believe in something these days or whatever, and they're sick and tired of working at their wage cut job, but they don't want to open themselves up to crypto. Those are the kinds of people that hate the loudest. It's the very vocal minority. But there's probably about 20 or 30% of the PulseChain community that are like me, that are actually talking about their bags, spreading awareness, growing adoption, increasing the network effect by getting online, and probably another 50 or 60% that are just the silent majority that are actually optimistic and also hopeful. Because PulseChain does bring a lot of optimism. It brings a lot of hope to people, right? When they get excited about the future, being part in something that's similar to a grassroots movement like Ethereum in the early days, or like Bitcoin in the early days. I've never seen anything like the HEX and PulseChain community since those early days of those early coins. But just taking a look at these dips, right? These dips were not caused by angry people in the community that all of a sudden think Richard's a scammer. Now, most of the people still in the community understand that Richard's the hero in this story, and that the SEC, without the SEC lawsuit, this dip would have never happened. The SEC is supposed to protect investors. And when you can literally point to the chart and see, look for this week and say, look at this week. This is when the SEC was protecting you. Okay, protecting you with your negative 62% candle. But to get a silver lining here, to get a little bit of optimism, it's hard to find optimism when you've got such BS out here with the Finnish government and Interpol issuing a red notice for Richard Hart, making him seem like he's up there with these murderers and rapists, which he's not, okay? I know this guy, and you could tell yourself whatever story you want. If you believe that he's some terrible evil villain, well, some people might actually believe that. Just don't buy the coins. Just don't buy the coins. But a lot of people, even the haters, even the Eric Walls of the world, they most likely still have a bag. Because what if they're wrong? A lot of these haters, they're watching from the sidelines. Because if and when we win one day, when the SEC case blows over and all these charges get dropped, they want to be able to say that they were right the whole time. Even though they weren't willing to do the hard thing, which is stand up for their bags when times are tough. Maybe they were even secretly talking with their friends about how they hope Richard Hart will fail. They hope Hex and PulseChain will die. It's an obvious scam. But then, of course, watch it when it pumps. Everyone's going to claim they had a bag the whole time. But the silver lining is that Interpol could only cause a 32% dip. That's only half as much as the SEC FUD. And it's like on top of that, the Fed caused a big panic. Bitcoin's down to 94K. Ethereum's down. So the whole market is down, right? We've got 30 more days left till Trump presidency. So just hang in there, everybody. I'm not selling. I wish that I could have bought this dip a lot harder, because these dips, these maximum points of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that's what FUD stands for. These maximum points of doubt, when you know that the coins aren't going anywhere, that they can't be shut off, and that Richard is on a trajectory to win, whether it takes a month or a year from now, all the money is made by the people that bought low and sold high. People that bought the fear and bought the maximum pain, whereas other people are capitulating right now. And I really hope that's not you guys watching. I mean, people watching, chances are, if you're still watching, you're interested in the full story, you're interested in the truth, and you're interested in diving in more than just reading some headline. And I get it. This headline, this EU's most wanted, blood on their hands, it's infuriating. I read this and I get angry to my core, because I don't want to be associated. Nobody wants to be associated with a theoretical bad guy or a villain. But then it's like, I know this guy. I've followed him for what, 7 years? I've followed this guy for maybe 8 years now. And nothing in all my time listening to him had he ever given off any kind of murderer vibes. And that's not even what he's accused of, okay? He's accused of beating up a 16-year-old. And then you got to ask yourself, remember like Julian Assange, they hit him with a fake rape charge, right? What did Julian Assange do? WikiLeaks? He threatened the status quo. This is one of those cases, guys, where you got to look past the headlines and you got to realize that this guy is rocking the boat to the point that they're going to do lawfare. Lawfare literally just means, utilizing the existing establishment, the existing 3-letter agencies or Interpol. It's not even a 3-letter agency, right? It's INTERPOL. It's an 8-letter agency. They can't even get down to 3 letters. Interpol, what a joke, right? And that's why, look, we ate up this Interpol FUD, and we're already buying this FUD back up. And it was only half as severe as the SEC FUD. So it really just seems like a last-ditch effort to try to throw anything they can at the guy before dismissal. And it did look like the case had a good chance of getting dismissed, if not now, then potentially later on, and Richard Hart beating the case. But don't just take it from me as well. Listen to his response about this whole thing, right? He says, "My whole life I've been preparing for the future, anticipating it, creating it. I've never been safer, and I'm excited for the future." So that's all basically that I need to hear, is I've never been safer and excited for the future. He's always thinking a few steps ahead. Okay? He's talking about the honorable justice in the SEC versus me should have their ruling out soon. Donald Trump will be in office soon. PulseX, PulseChain, HEX, INC are all working wonderfully. This makes some entities mad, but there's literally nothing they can do about it except be mad. It feels great to be wanted, right? So this is kind of a cryptic tweet acknowledging the FUD, saying, hey guys, I'm fine, I'm okay, we're going to be fine. And I can confirm, sitting in that courthouse, watching the defense, which Quinn Emanuel and the dream team of 11 different lawyers, 4 different law firms, the SEC did not know that they barked up the wrong tree. I really don't think the SEC had any idea who they were going after. They thought it would be an open and shut case because, the guy looks like a scammer, right? Oh, he must have sold everybody's HEX or something and bought this, this flashy Ferrari and Gucci and all this stuff. They picked the wrong guy. Okay, they missed FTX. Where were they in Celsius? Where were they in Voyager? Three Arrows Capital. They're desperate. They're trying to save face. And you got to understand, nobody thinks that they are the bad guy. The SEC doesn't actually believe that they're harming investors, even though they are. I can point to you right on the chart right here. Thanks, SEC. Thanks for protecting me with that negative 60% candle. But even they think they're the good guys. Okay, and all they're trying to do is get a promotion. It's a revolving door. It's regulatory capture. They just want to do whatever they can to get this win, whether or not Richard's actually a scammer or not. They don't even have so much of an interest of whether or not Richard is actually a scammer. If even one guy complained about Richard, which that's basically the evidence they were using in court, is that one investor in Brooklyn was a salty little soy boy and couldn't handle his loss. And by the way, the funny thing about that one guy is that I think he actually is up on his money now. Even the guy that complained is break even or up on his money. Even though his complaining caused this negative cascade by trying to get a snitcher's fee. Because yes, the SEC actually offers a snitcher's fee. They offer 10 to 30% of any settlement. So they thought they could shake Richard down, get a settlement out of him. That's how most of these cases work. And that's how 3-letter agencies expect. They expect, just because they have the government on their side and all the taxpayers' dollars on their side, they think they're always going to be right and that they have the infinite resources. And in most cases, they do. Even when the SEC goes after innocent people. And The SEC, I'm sure they do catch fraud a lot of times, especially in traditional securities. But when it comes to crypto, they've just been taking loss after loss. I mean, they occasionally do catch a crypto scammer as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 50% of all cases, crypto cases for the SEC were illegitimate and overreaching. Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, Richard Hart, Tornado Cash, all these guys falsely accused of securities fraud when they're not even willing to make new regulations to clearly define the laws for a brand new asset class, which are worthy of defining new laws for. But anyway, we've got an interesting tweet here from Sal the Agorist. Okay, I'm going to highlight this guy's tweet because this guy's a huge account, 271K followers. He's a meme guy. Okay, he's like a libertarian meme guy. And I like the way that he put this, and I like that outside people are watching because this Sal guy, he's always been one of the good guys, but not really like a super vocal proponent. But he understands the core issues here. Okay, the core issues at play here. He's saying Interpol, the police wing of the global banking cartel, has put Richard Hart on the most wanted list. Did he start a war in Russia, as his accusers have? Did he genocide thousands of Palestinians like the EU? Did he murder or steal from anyone, as the EU does routinely? No, his crime was creating the first decentralized time deposit outside the control of the banksters. This is actually scary for people, okay? When Trump gets in the office, I think things are going to be a lot better for crypto innovation, but this actually does threaten the status quo, okay? The banking cartel does not like to be messed with. And HEX being a simple smart contract, a lot of these DeFi protocols like Aave and Compound, they just replace products at a bank. So it's like decentralized borrowing and lending, decentralized savings account. Banks are becoming more and more irrelevant as time goes on, and I think they can see the writing on the wall, which is why they're so desperate to go after people like this, especially even Tornado Cash. Privacy software, right? It's like privacy is a fundamental human right. You shouldn't assume just because somebody wants privacy that they're doing something wrong. Just like you shouldn't assume because you're putting curtains up in your house that everybody that closes their curtains at night, oh, what are they hiding? What are they hiding, So we're at risk here, things could get very Orwellian, and crypto is the way out. Crypto is the solution to self-sovereignty and bringing the power back to the people. Richard talks about this all the time. He talks about making stuff with no admin keys. That's really decentralized, meaning it cannot be shut off. It's just code. The only way to shut off PulseChain and HEX and all this stuff would be to have some global catastrophe that wipes out the whole internet. And if the internet stops working, then we're really screwed. I hope that doesn't happen. But going back to the tweet, the state's war on crypto is in full effect. They are scared to death. A paper tiger nearing the end. A paper tiger, right? Everything in their playbook, everything in their wheelhouse. They're trying to basically bully people like Richard or the Tornado Cash devs or CZ or Elon Musk or any of these guys that went against the establishment. And it's pretty obvious, right? Even Andrew Tate. I mean, say what you want about Andrew Tate, but they didn't actually have any sex trafficking evidence. The Romanian judge threw that case out. I'm not a big fan of Tate necessarily, but I do think he's innocent in that regard. And so just look at all these people, right? Anybody that does anything significant ever in history, they get met with a lot of opposition. They get met with a lot of hate. And these days, a lot of lawfare, right? Back in the day, the king might just, murder you if you try to rock the boat too much. These days, they've got certain weapons in their arsenal, but luckily the courts have been holding up justice worldwide so far, right? And there's certain plays you can make with jurisdictions and things like that. KDP Crypto, another big influencer in the HEX community. Shout out to KDP. She's got great takes on this too. Go give her a follow. She says the timing of this Interpol announcement is planned. The SEC is conveniently about to lose their court case against Richard Hart. They put Richard's picture for tax fraud next to murderers and traffickers. They come after every billionaire for tax fraud. They don't win. They're smarter than most and know how to play the game. Richard's post on X saying he doesn't have a care in the world. Let them come after him, and he's prepared and excited for the future. And you guys emotionally react and make an SEC tweet announcement 2.0 sell-off. So she's just like, why are you guys capitulating here? Why are you capitulating when we already survived the SEC FUD? Okay, that's about as bad FUD as you can get. I mean, it even shows in the price chart, guys. It even shows in the price chart. The Interpol FUD was literally 50% less bad. We're talking about a 32% dip versus a 62% dip. And guys, 32% for a low liquidity cryptocurrency that's brand new, cycle one coin. This is par for the course. This could happen on the way up in the bull market too in a single day. So don't be scared here. Just know the game you're playing. And if you're thinking about getting into PulseChain, if you're still brand new, you just got to realize that volatility is the price you pay for the highest appreciating asset class of all time. But it has been brutal, guys. It's been 2 years almost, coming up on 1.8 years of PulseChain's existence, and it's just FUD from every single angle. They want us to fail. They want us to back down. They want to scare people like me into no longer talking about HEX. But when something like this happens, I just double down. I go 10 times harder. I'm actually motivated to make content again. Yes, I've been making 3 TikToks and Instagram reels and YouTube shorts a day for the last, 200 or 300 days. Yes, I put out content like a machine, but also this gives me something to actually make thought-provoking videos on, because it brings to light how big of a deal this actually is in terms of who it threatens in the power structure. So shout out to KDP, and there's so many other good people out there. You can follow all these guys to get the actual hot takes on what's happening. Some people are never going to change their mind. Some people have already made up that Richard Hart's a scammer in their head, and that's fine. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to people that when they see something like this, they can see through the matrix a little bit. Like that Shill Gates guy, he's brand new to crypto, right? Or brand new to HEX and PulseChain. But he's one of those guys that can tell, if they're going after somebody so hard, maybe there's 2 sides to the story. And maybe this gay little appeal to authority isn't always the right way to think about things. Maybe the SEC and the government doesn't always have your best interest at heart. What a concept. What a concept. No, the government, they always know what's best for the people. Crypto was actually literally invented as a reaction to the 2008 banking crisis. And it's like the cypherpunk movement was totally anti-authority, anti-establishment. It was the rebel thing to do. And now everyone's just begging and pleading for MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor and BlackRock to buy their bags from them, because that's the only way to get a 2x in Bitcoin. That's the only way Bitcoin goes to 200K now, is if BlackRock buys your bags and shills it on TV to grandma and grandpa to unlock that global liquidity worldwide. So you don't get paid the outsized rewards for buying something after it's consensus to do. All right, just like if you're capitulating here in HEX and PulseChain. Look, maybe if it was going to keep you up at night, I get it, okay? If you don't want to deal with any of this drama, if it gives you anxiety, yeah, you shouldn't be here, okay? But the price is going to go up one day, and you might regret that decision. The occasional FUD like this, it really does make me angry. It makes me angry enough to get out here and pump out, tons of more content to defend my bags and to talk about what's really going on here, the other side of the story. But some people might not want to be here, and that's okay. That's okay. But just be careful capitulating on FUD like this, because again, this scary image on the EU most wanted list, it's not actually new. This is being regurgitated from a month ago, and this Finnish police investigation actually was begun over a year ago. It just popped up on this scary website from Interpol. Interpol read notice. But we know Richard's got all the money in the world and the world's best lawyers defending him against the SEC. I think they can also defend him against Interpol, who's only got 1,000 employees, by the way, globally. Their funding is way lower than, any U.S. government agency, way lower than the sacrifice funds total. The sacrifice funds alone would fund Interpol for multiple years. It's kind of funny. Interpol's not as scary as I thought. I didn't even know much about Interpol before the last couple of days, but as I've been learning more about it, it seems like there are some people higher up that just want Richard to fail. Okay, and so look at Crypto Sambo over here. Congrats, Richard Hart. You are now on the same list as some of my other favorite people: Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Andrew Tate, Julian Assange, Alex Jones, Snowden, Rogan, Peterson, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. These are people speaking truth to power. Okay, they're people speaking their reality, but when it doesn't align with the consensus, Overton window of things that are maybe slightly unacceptable to say, other people want to shut them down. Other people want to literally stifle their speech and stop them from talking altogether. We know that the answer to poor speech is not suppressing the speech, but if there's speech you don't like, then the answer is better speech and better arguments, right? It's a very slippery slope. It's a very Orwellian police state type of thing when you start trying to actually shut down and deplatform all these people. Julian Assange is one of my favorites. WikiLeaks, really hard to argue with all those WikiLeaks documents. I mean, he exposed corruption on the highest levels, and that's what Richard Hart is going through right now. It's just corruption on pretty high levels. I mean, he's kind of got the final boss. I wouldn't even say Interpol is the final boss. The SEC is the final boss, and Interpol is like their European arm with shitty funding and not too many employees, and they've been known to take bribes in the past, okay? You can go watch the 60 Minutes episode. There's a 60 Minutes episode talking about how Interpol has actually been weaponized with false accusations. This was on 60 Minutes a few years ago. I'll make sure to retweet that clip as well. Make sure you go follow me on Twitter. Follow me on X if you want all this stuff, if you want to get the story in real time. We've got your friend Sami. You got to give him a follow, guys. Give this guy a follow if you haven't already. He's over here highlighting that, they've helped put Julian Assange on the red notice Interpol list for rape. So they've already lost all credibility when one day, I don't know if people remember this, people forget very quickly, but the rape victim, quote unquote, from Julian Assange's case just woke up one day and said, oh yeah, no, actually none of that ever happened. None of that ever happened, right? So it's not that hard to pay certain people off to make up stories and fabrications. The public is desperate. The public will do anything for a little bit of money, especially if they don't believe in something, if they don't have any core beliefs or goals that they're going for. So Sami is saying, you saw what happened to the SEC in the USA. They tried to be the official attack dog of the deep state, and now they're the laughing stock. So yeah, they just keep losing credibility over and over. Over and over again, guys. I think Crypto Vince is also highlighting that this is actually FUD from September 17th, and even a year earlier. I remember seeing something like this in September of 2023. But again, I think it's just the fact that it appeared on this big, scary website, Richard's face next to actual murderers, actual traffickers, and actual people that are terrible criminals. It's disgusting to see. This is really the most infuriating part for me. Somebody that I know is a good guy being treated like this. And being Julian Assange, or potentially even John McAfee. Now, John McAfee was a little bit of a wild card. I think McAfee makes Richard Hart look tame. Okay, but were any of these people bad people? No, they were people that exposed corruption or people that really threatened the status quo. I mean, look at all the people that Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency could potentially fire and put out of a job. Efficiency means threatening people's jobs and livelihoods. And yes, I do think that government spending should be under a little bit of scrutiny, but there's a lot of federal employees, 2 million actually in the USA, that are probably a little bit scared right now because maybe they know that their job involves them sitting around at home all day in their underwear, working from home and not really doing much other than sucking taxpayer dollars from the teat of Uncle Sam. And then look at Trump as well. Trump's obviously, that's a whole other story. But we've always been saying that Richard Hart is like the Donald Trump of crypto, right? And it kind of is proven to be true more and more every day. Richard Hart saying that if the haters really wanted to get me down, they could raise more than $27 million for charity, like I did, write free self-help books like I did, work in the courts to set legal precedent for peer-to-peer publishing software, found things that become insanely valuable. So he's basically saying, look, guys, this is all just haters. Nothing makes haters more angry than success. Every time they think of you, it reminds them of how they're not doing half of what you could. And that's actually true. I've found that to be true in my real life as well. And people will hate from farther away, but then, when they're around you, they'll pretend that they weren't hating. It is funny, guys. Believe in something. Believe in something. That's all you got to do. That's what a lot of people are too scared to do. They're too scared to do that because they're afraid to fail. They're afraid to try in the first place because what if they fail? Or they're afraid of what other people will think. Guys, if you're afraid of what other people will think, man, everybody cares about what they think, right? Like, I'm not going to be bringing up crypto at Christmas this year. Especially not now. Maybe I would have if this whole thing never happened, but time will tell who wins and loses in the end. And I know it's frustrating to have your reputation tarnished for believing in something, for believing in bringing power back to the people and open source software and number go up and making a better world without middlemen, without corrupt governments printing money to oblivion. I think Richard Hart figured out some of the best products in the space. So I'm on Team Crypto. I'm on Team PulseChain. And I am sticking on this ship no matter what happens. I'm going down with this thing even to zero if it does happen. But obviously, I don't think it's going there. I do not think this is going to zero by any means. I still believe in 100 to 1,000x potential, maybe even more over a longer time scale. You got to realize that this FUD will all blow over. This FUD, people will forget about it in the next 2 days, and they'll be outraged about the next thing. And it'll slowly start to show in the price chart. We'll probably recover by the end of 2024. We'll probably be right back to where we started, or somewhere around, in HEX's case, we'll probably be around 2.5 penny level. We might bounce around 2 pennies, but look, with this setback, look at this giant wick down below a penny, snapped all the way back up, which means the market has decided not to care as much about this Interpol FUD as it did the first time. The more they throw at you, the more desensitized the market gets to this. And so the fact that we did bounce up this high, we're only at price levels that we were at 4 or 5 weeks ago. Like we're right back to November, okay? It's mid-December. We're right back to the same price that we were at 1 month ago in mid-November. So really it's not catastrophic. You could look at this price chart and just think, oh, this is just a normal crypto price chart. You know, if you didn't know anything about the Interpol news, you would just say, oh, well, that's crypto, that's volatility, right? Maybe something happened, but it's not like it's devastating going to zero, right? We're still up from the lows, about a 5x from the lows, right? A 4x from the lows. So 400% gain from the all-time low. Things could be worse, guys. And the fact that we're so resilient on the chart, despite, the mother of all FUD, when you get global Interpol and people watching you, it doesn't feel good. But also, it's no SEC dip. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you either believe Richard or you don't. He's out here trying to make the world a better place and saying that the world can be very unkind to folks trying to make a difference. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. It's a Gandhi quote, people. But look, you either think Richard's a scammer or you don't. Just make sure that you get all the information. Make sure that you take in other points of view. Because a lot of people that are quick to call scam haven't even done 15 minutes of research. They saw a headline. And that's why we're so in the mindshare these days. Crypto and HEX and PulseChain are in the zeitgeist of crypto. Because people have such a strong emotional reaction. They either love him or they hate him. He polarized himself on purpose deliberately as a marketing ploy. And so when the Finnish government FUD comes up and the fake battery assault charge comes up, which nobody believes anyway. When these fake battery assault charges come up, the people that want to believe it, the people that want Richard to fail, they come out of the woodwork and they do free advertising. Altcoin Gordon and Stacey Herbert and even Jameson Lopp taking shots at Richard when they themselves have been unfairly accused of stuff, right? Like Jameson Lopp got like SWAT attacked in 2017. You can go look it up, and it's like, really, dude, like you're saying that you've never been falsely accused of something. You're saying that it's not possible for people to just make shit up on the internet, for people to weaponize the legal system against somebody. So shout out to your friend Sami, just also bringing us back to reality. Comparing the two dips as well. The SEC dip had a red volume candle, whereas the Interpol dip had a green volume candle, meaning buyers stepped in to eat it up, and the JEETs have been rinsed accordingly. So look, every one of these big shakeouts is exactly that. It's a rinsing of the non-believers, the JEETs, the soy boys that never believed. And I get it. I get it that it is scary. I'm not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me that easily. And you can't get rid of the other hundreds and thousands of people out there that easily as well. I've seen a lot of positivity on PulseChain Twitter and a very vocal minority of haters that are always going to be there. But the haters also increase mindshare. Okay, it has to do with this all publicity is good publicity kind of concept. When haters yell and scream about your coin, that means they're living rent-free in, you're living rent-free in their head. Even though it doesn't feel good to be kicked while you're down. These people are just spreading the word, whether they realize it or not. If they really wanted to stop HEX, if they really wanted to stop PulseChain, they would actually just stop talking about it. They would never say another word about it, and then it would never get any more mindshare. But instead, no, you've got, hundreds of thousands of follower accounts here. Even if they say something neutral about HEX and PulseChain, the comments are just flooded. If you're a neutral observer on Twitter, test this out, do an experiment. Say something controversial, make a spicy PulseChain tweet. Or just ask, what do you guys think about PulseChain? Guarantee you're going to get the most engagement that you've ever got on a tweet before when it comes to crypto Twitter. Or especially if, you were going to say something like, oh, so this Richard Hart guy, is he a scammer? If you tweeted that out as a neutral account, your comment section would absolutely blow up. But look, there's all kinds of negative consequences. MEXC, the exchange, it's probably going to delist us. So that's also infuriating. Pretty pissed off about that. We worked so hard to get listed on MEXC, and sometimes it's like one step forward, two steps back. But they could pull out any number of reasons to delist us, right? They could make it about volume. They could make it about, oh, you don't have enough holders. You're not attracting enough users. And on top of that, the bad political press is probably going to get us delisted. But I do fully expect that we will get relisted on places like OKX and maybe even Binance after we get a win from the SEC. So very optimistic, very hopeful. But the judge in the Richard Hart SEC case will need to make a decision in the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe. at the most about whether or not the case gets dismissed altogether, maybe it gets partially dismissed, and we're going to turn that into a bullish story. That will be a bullish story. It's just the timing. You know, the timing comes right at the moment where the SEC judge or the judge in the SEC case has to make a decision, and now all of a sudden the Interpol FUD from a year ago is resurfacing now. So buy the dip or not. It's totally up to you. I wish I could buy the dip harder right now. Maybe if we still have one in a couple days. Keep in mind, this is lawfare. They did it to CZ. They did it to Tate. They did it to Musk. They did it to Trump, Julian Assange, Edward Snowden. The list goes on and on. It's all these people exposing corruption or creating open source software or just building tools that give power back to the people. The government is not necessarily in the business of giving you more rights and more freedom. Government literally means mind control, right? Government means mind control. So it's their job. So they're going to choose the option that is maximum freedom limiting if you give them enough time and if you give them the opportunity to. But the cat's out of the bag with crypto, right? You can't put this one back away. Crypto is out there. People are going to build stuff regardless. So when Trump gets in office, it's also going to become a much more hospitable environment in the USA to do crypto business, to hold crypto, to build. I would assume that also means to talk about it, which a lot of the HEX influencers got subpoenaed for, right? Yet here we are. They can't shut us up because we know we were never paid by Richard. We were never paid to promote. There's no undisclosed promotions going on here. They wish there were, but there's not. I could see how it might feel that way. And then you've got people like Altcoin Daily that shilled FTX that get away free. No subpoena. The hypocrisy is incredible. It's like the actual scammer, Sam Bankman-Fried, that stole $10 billion, worse than Bernie Madoff. And he's about to get potentially even out of jail. Like he might get actually acquitted or something. I've been hearing about this stuff in the news. SBF might be off the hook because he's well connected. And guess what? And maybe I should do another video about that rabbit hole. But SBF's mom is actually, SBF's parents are tightly interconnected with Gary Gensler and with a lot of the lawyers that are even going after Elon Musk. So luckily his mommy and daddy are from the establishment. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets off the hook. But it's not fair, man. If you're not part of the club, it's really, really difficult to get a seat at the table. But you know, I'm going to be here. We'll be in Hexaco one day. Okay, we will win in the end. We will have the last laugh. It's easy for them to kick us while we're down. My conviction's never been stronger, and my motivation just got a nice little boost. So I guess thank you, corrupt SEC. Thank you, incompetent and corrupt Interpol. I'm going to be making more content to defend my bags and my freedoms and those of the hundreds and thousands of people out there. I think there's about 250,000 people out there that are PulseChain holders. So you can't stop us from talking about it, buying it, holding it. Can't crush our optimism and our spirit. We'll be here for many, many years to come. I'm locked in HEX 100% other than my yield farms, right? I think my average stake length is 7 years. So we're like the cockroaches of crypto. You know, it's hard to kill us. And every time you do try to censor stuff like this, it only just backfires. I wonder when they're going to learn that, like, every time you try to stop an inevitable thing from happening, or in Richard's words, you know, an idea whose time that's come, it always seems to backfire. It always seems to be like, oh, the people actually had conviction. They actually believe in this thing. You know, PulseChain is the greatest neo-religion, techno-worship. It's called, you know, in a secular society, we need to choose new things to believe in. And a lot of people have chosen borderless peer-to-peer digital money. You know, fix the money, fix the world. We're not going to be eating the bugs. We're not going to be drinking the soy, living in the pod. We actually want a better future here. So it's been great to be on this ride with you guys so far. Tough times. Trust me, I'm not happy about it. I'm furious. But I'm turning that anger into motivation. To keep onboarding people, to keep educating, keep pumping our bags, spreading the word. That's all we can do. So keep building. Don't let them get to you. You only lose when you quit. So you only quit and you only lose when you lose internally. So don't give the SEC, don't give Interpol that satisfaction. Richard Hart is innocent. Time will tell. And I do believe that we're going to be on the right side of history. Like, subscribe, not only on YouTube, but Twitter, where I can get the real story about what's been going on. I'll see you in the next video.